All right, hey, great to be here. So, my name is Darrin Miller. I'm a member of the South Lake Focus Group, just like you guys in the market. Gave this presentation to the IT group last week, and they really liked it. I've reached out to people like Alvin and the engineering team, said, hey, I'd like to present this because the IT group thought it was really great. So today we're going to talk about Edward DeBona's 6 thinking hats. I don't know you guys, I know the IT folks better, so a little bit about me real fast. So the last 10 years I've had the privilege to be a BI manager at 3 different places in the Metroplex. So most recently was Cottonwood Financial, all about loans, right? You come in, you get your loan, you do your installment loan or your title loan, so very, very heavy in the financial data. Part of that, I was in Interstate Batteries. Can't get more hardline retail than car batteries, so 5 years of crunching numbers on retail sales for batteries. Part of that was DG Fast Channel, a little bit different for the Dallas market. They specialize in digital media distribution, particularly TV commercials. Believe it or not, every time you see a TV commercial, they got paid $12 for distributing it. Prior to that, I worked at Westlake, Fidelity, Veritude. Prior to that, for 3 years, I got to be a VP of marketing for a very small company. So anybody in the room familiar with Hyperion Solutions way back in the day? So Hyperion Solutions, right before they got acquired by Oracle, I was with Hyperion, and they decided, we're going to get rid of your consulting force. Well, I was on the consulting force. So about 5 of us who got the thanks for playing decided to start our own company called One Answer Solutions, and they became a premier Hyperion partner. So there I definitely wore a different hat than my traditional IT hat. Hey Darrin, you're the most marketing type, so guess what? You're going to be a VP of marketing. So I got to do a variety of things. I got to hire people, got to train people, was responsible for all of our paraphernalia as far as the user shows, and also, of course, the users conferences. So it's a really, really fascinating time for me. Prior to that, I was with Hyperion, which prior to that was Brio Technology, which prior to that was Scribe. So if any of you were around in the 2000 age, 2000 to 2005, acquisitions were happening. So I got to survive all 3 of those acquisitions. I was with them for 6 years, traveling consultant, 46 weeks a year. So I was on the road 46 weeks a year, and back those days, that's when you flew out on a Sunday and came on a Friday. So that was a lot of fun, got to do a lot of different things, got to be an engagement manager. So, just like you, right now I'm seeking a new position in the DFW area, ideally looking for something as a business intelligence manager or director, and I don't care where in DW, somewhere. It's DFW, as long as I get to stay. So a little bit about my background there. Here to talk with you today about Edward DeBona's 6 thinking hats, a wonderful way to learn about thinking as a skill. Times are changing, right? It used to be you always got to ask, well, what do you think about that? Have you noticed now it's, how do you feel about that? How does that make you feel? We're living in a different time. And some people argue that we're living in a time when we've lost the ability to critically think as well as we used to. So one of the things that this Edward DeBona's 6 thinking hats will do will teach us how to use thinking as a skill. So if we're going to talk to you about Edward DeBona's 6 thinking hats, who is Edward DeBona? Well, he's been around a long time. He's actually born back in 1933, so he's still alive. He did a lot of things with a P. He was a physician, a psychologist, a philosopher, etc., inventor. He actually coined the term lateral thinking back in 1967, was nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize, and his big thing is the World Academy of New Thinking. So he's all about thinking, and again, teaching thinking as a skill, right? And how do we think, or how should we think, etc., right? So what I'm going to ask you guys to do today should be pretty easy for this group. Put on your BA hat. Your business analyst hat. So I got, I guess, 1 BA in the room, right?
More than BA.
Okay, well, okay, so fine, BA, but we've got project managers, right?
Yeah.
Of course, you guys interact with BAs all the time, right? So last week when I gave this to the IT group, it's like, I had like 1 person, right? And IT people have a tendency to do what? Well, okay, you guys figure out the requirements, I'm gonna go code. And of course, then what happens is sometimes things don't work out as well as they need to work out. So last week it was like, okay guys, put on your BA hat. Some of those people are a little bit challenged. For this group it should be a little bit easier. So again, when you think about thinking and the overall success that could lend to a project, you need to be able to critically think, be able to analyze, etc. So me, my 30 years, when I look at classic reasons that projects don't seem to meet expectations, there's a whole montage of them, especially if you get involved with IT. Well, the server crashed and we didn't think the software was going to do this. There's a whole bunch of reasons. But really, at the end of the day, at least in my world, what I've seen, 3 major reasons why projects don't meet expectations. Overlooked stakeholders, lack of stakeholder sponsorship, buy-in, agreement, whatever term you want to put there, and of course the dreaded missed requirement. So overlooked stakeholders, happens all the time. You know, how many times you've been like, you know what, I don't see John here. I know, why isn't he in these meetings? I don't know, I would have thought he was invited. It doesn't make sense. Overlooked stakeholders. Sometimes it's overt. Maybe they were overlooked on purpose. Sometimes maybe they didn't realize we need to invite the accounting group to this project kickoff, whatever. But overlooked stakeholders. Lack of stakeholder sponsorship. Well, maybe John successfully went to all the meetings, but the project rolls out, and you sit there and you go, well, we did this, we did this, we did this. My gosh, meets everything, sign off was great, but John's not happy because he feels he wasn't listened to. All of his needs weren't met. And of course, that segues to lack of sponsorship, right? And then, like I mentioned, the dreaded missed requirements. What? When this was done, we were supposed to send the data to the credit bureau? No one told us that. Well, yeah, it was a big thing we missed. So let's talk a little bit about each of these, and it will segue into DeBono's 6 thinking hats. Overlooked stakeholders. Why does that happen? Well, sometimes it's conscious, right? If I was to go to Andy, hey Andy, guess what? We got to do this new thing, we got to knock this out. Assemble whatever team you need to, and we can get this ball rolling. You might go, okay, I'm not going to invite John. Every time I invite John, oh my God, right? He's hard to deal with, he's so negative, I don't want to invite him. It could be conscious. It could be subconscious again. Maybe you didn't realize a given department was supposed to be involved, etc. So there's numbers of reasons that people could be overlooked. And at the end of the day, we tend to create groups of people we like. Most people, if you're going to kick off a project, is like, you know what, I'm going to invite so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so, because we get along, we all think the same, because you think what? Path of least resistance, we're going to get in, get this done, and we're going to be sailing. Well, that might not be the best approach. So for example, take the 2 people we have here. You see them every day, you work with them, they're smiling, right? But after you've worked with them a while, you realize that you really have negative Nate and positive Peggy, right? And we've all seen these people as well. Negative Nate, no, you invite him to the meeting, I don't know why I'm here. Really? I mean, I don't know why I'm here. We tried this 5 years ago, it's not going to work. Or we've deployed this before, it went south. The perpetual negative type of person. As a whole, we don't like to have that person because they're kind of a drain, right? On the flip side, you've got the positive Peggy. Boy, you can give her anything. You want me to do what? And it goes up to the moon and comes, oh my gosh, I can do that. Sometimes maybe she doesn't realize that she's bitten off more than she can chew. So you've got the 2 extremes. You've got the negative Nate, the positive Peggy. Particularly people that do what we do, and particularly on the IT side of the house more so, if you ask most people in IT, I don't know, this group might be different, so I'm be interested in the response, but if you ask most group in IT, are you a pessimist or an optimist? What do they say? Anybody have an idea?
A realist.
A realist. Thank you very much. 9 times out of 10, they say I'm a realist. Because it's all about 0 or 1, true, false, black, white, it's working, it's not. So particularly when IT people, and maybe people in here as well, when you start staffing on a project, you don't want the extremes. You want, again, logical, let's look at it. I don't want the emotion, the negative guy. I don't want the person who never really looks and figures out that this might not be feasible. You kind of want, people that are in the middle. Well, realistically, you need to bring in everybody. There is value to having the negative Nate and the positive Peggy in the room, right? So you need to bring in everyone, right? So I always get asked, well, if this can happen so easily, how do you avoid overlooking certain stakeholders? Well, I think the easiest way to do it is what I call the double R approach, and that'll make a little bit more sense in a minute. So when I say double R, right now, of course, everyone's going to Agile, right? I mean, water's done. We'll run out of the waterfall life cycle. No one's doing it. Everyone's going Agile. Some people have implemented it better. Some people haven't implemented it that well. But everyone's going to Agile. And on the Agile side of the house, there's various descriptors you can use for the system development life cycle. But one of them that I've seen used a lot is RAPID, R-A-P-I-D. So who in here has heard of RAPID? Okay, great. RAPID, you've got 5 phases: requirements, analysis, prototype, integration, and deployment. Lends itself very well to an IT project, right? Because requirements, we need to collect new customer data. Okay. Analysis, well, this is the type of data we need to collect. Okay. Prototype, well, here's a screen. Integration, well, we integrate it with the CRM application and we roll it out to 40 stores. Okay, that's a very high, quick overview of RAPID. Lends itself very well to IT-related projects, but truth be told, it could be for anything. You could have a marketing project where you say, well, we want to roll out a new ad campaign. Okay, roll out a new ad campaign. What do we need to do? Well, who are the people we want to target? Well, that's the analysis phase. What are we going to send out? We're going to send out window cleans to the stores, and we're going to send out coupons at the same time. That'd be a good idea. We're going to roll into this test market. So, of course, you could use the RAPID approach to do that. So keep that in the back of your mind, RAPID, R-A-P-I-D. Now, when it comes to picking people, as I mentioned, you could be subconsciously not inviting somebody, or consciously, "Oh, I don't want John there," right? But you need to avoid that. And I think if you step back and you look at what people are going to do in the project, that helps. Now, when I say what people are going to do, they run a variety of things. You could have a QA person on it, you could have a database person, obviously you could have a person you're gathering requirements from. But at the end of the day, people's tendency, when you assign them to a project, you want to see if they can fall into a RACI chart. So who in here has heard of a RACI chart? Yay! You would be surprised how many people in IT did not know what a RACI chart was. But at the end of the day, you have a RACI chart. So people as a whole are going to do one of 4 functions. They're going to be responsible, they're going to be accountable, consultant, or informed. Responsible, Andy's writing the code. Accountable, Darrin, you're Andy's manager. He better write the code, right? Consultant, hey, what does this product need to do? And then of course you got informed. Guess what, Jeffrey? This is what we're rolling out. Hope you like it, right? So the big picture, you've got the RACI and you've got the RAPID. And if you put them together, what you can do real quickly is fill out this matrix for stakeholder selection. Mm-hmm. So on the left side, you've got requirements. Across the top, you've got responsible, accountable, consultant, and informed. Now, of course, you can have different people in each phase of the project. Maybe you're going to have the same people. They could be interchangeable. But what I encourage you to do is come up with this and then just your gut check, almost like word association. Who do I need to have in this matrix? Well, for responsible, Tom Smith. Accountable, Peter Jones. A couple people consulted, a couple people informed, right? And of course, like I said, you can fill out this chart and just fill out the first row. Notice under consultant, I've got 2 people. I think you should always have at least 2. Any idea why? In case someone gets hit by a bus, moves on to another project, or maybe, hey, they are so important, even though they're the consultant person in this project, boy, in this project, they are going to be someone who's really responsible. So they get yanked out from under you without your control. So I would encourage you, of course, to always have at least 2 people in each square, probably no more than 4, because if you do the math, that's 16 people. Might be a little hard to manage. We've all seen projects bigger than that, but I don't like to have more than probably 4 in each group. So that is a very good way to make sure that you're not overlooking your key stakeholders, okay? Now, let's talk about gathering requirements. You've got your stakeholders. Yay, we've done our double R chart. We've got everybody that we think we need to have on the project, and how do we gather requirements? Well, this should be very old hat, no pun intended for this group, but you've got brainstorming, document analysis, gap analysis, focus groups, observation, etc. Truth be told, as you'll see momentarily, the 6 thinking hats is just nothing more than a different way to brainstorm, right? But this is some of the ways, of course, you can do requirements gathering. So you've got your people, you start talking to them, and yet maybe they don't feel like things are going that well, right? So you've got them all, but you get them in a room and things aren't going that great. Well, why could that be? Well, at the end of the day, everyone's going to get together and they're going to need to contribute and think. Well, there are some challenges to quality thinking. Ego. We've all been there. You've got the guy that's been at the company 20 years. He has seen there, been there, done it all. And he's in the room going, no, we tried that. No, that's not good. He's the guy that you have to, give me the talking stick back. Okay, great. I'm going to move on to somebody else, right? So you might have somebody who's a little bit too egotistical in the room and just wants to take up all the time. Maybe not enough intellectual or emotional maturity. Now that sounds kind of harsh, but what we really mean by that typically is somebody new. We've all been there. Well, hey, this is Greg. He's our new VP of Marketing, comes over with 10 years experience, whatever. Okay, that's great. But he's not worked at this company. So he's going to sit in these meetings and do a lot of what I call sand skills, smile and nod, right? A lot of that because he maybe is afraid to contribute because he hasn't been with the company that long. So maybe that's one of the reasons that he doesn't want to participate or do some quality thinking. You've got the next couple of groups, what I call my ADD folks. We all work with them, right? Where, we could, no, never mind. Oh, actually we could, okay, get it out, let's finish this. What are you trying to say here, right? So you want to be able to solicit those ideas from him. And as we'll see momentarily, I think this approach helps with that. And then of course you actually have some people who pull it off. They can start off with a good idea, they can bring it all the way to fruition, they're used to participating, they're used to really, giving feedback. But those are the challenges we have when it comes to quality thinking, right? So, you've got your whole group together. You're trying really hard to make sure that you get all the requirements and their thinking processes done. And then, of course, what happens sometimes is you don't. And then this what results is stakeholder perceptions. No one listened to me. Again, we've all seen that. Project roll out. People are clapping. Oh my God, I got released. This is fantastic. And you got that one person. Well, I don't know. It didn't meet my requirements. Oh, no one listened to me. You saw me. I was in the meetings. No one listened to me. No one ever listens to my group. We've all seen places where there's a group that always feels kind of left out. Typically, it's like the accounting group or the marketing group, So no one understands my group's feelings. don't understand my group's role, don't understand how my group interacts with another group. No one understands that my group is the only group that has part-time people and maybe hourly people, and we've got, different than FTEs and what we have to do. And then, of course, it could be a segue to what I call the too much and the not enough. It's going to take too much time. It's going to take too much resources. It's going to take too much, or the flip side, not enough. My gut check tells me there's not enough ROI on this. Well, why? I just feel it. Well, could you kind of elaborate on that? So, if stakeholders aren't really talked to and your requirements aren't successfully gathered, you could end up with these, right? So, of course, we want to try to avoid those. And what it can really result in is, dun, 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 the dreaded groupthink. So anybody in here have a good definition for groupthink? Anyone?
Think tank would be the only thing that comes to mind.
Okay, that's right. So the dreaded groupthink, the official definition, the practice of thinking or making decisions as a group in a way that discourages creativity or individual responsibility. So let's look at a couple of those things. Creativity, individual responsibility. Well, hopefully, with the combination of the double R chart, you've elicited, you've documented pretty well, are you going to be the responsible person, the accountable person? We are asking you to participate in some fashion, one of these, RACI, and you're going to participate in some form, right? Because we've all been there too. Well, I didn't know I was responsible for that. No, you were listed. This is what you're supposed to do, right? So we're going to talk about the responsibility. We've talked about the responsibility, I should say, by hopefully filling out the double R chart correctly. And we're going to segue to, as you can see momentarily, the creativity part, right? So to avoid groupthink, we're going to do parallel thinking, which is what the entire 6-hat DeBona process is all about. So let's step through what this means. Well, for parallel thinking, avoiding groupthink, at any one moment, the entire team is looking in the same direction, okay? We've all been there too. 2 people in the back corner having a sidebar conversation. One guy comes in, no. Right? Now, you obviously need a good facilitator. A good facilitator should be able to prevent a lot of those things in team dynamics. But that said, we've all seen this happen, right? People are kind of doing their own thing maybe, and they're not really talking to one another like they should. So, at any one moment, the entire team is looking in the same direction. Each participant focuses their thoughts with the same focus of the others. Now, at this point, you're probably saying, wait a minute, you just said a slide ago that we're trying to avoid groupthink. This certainly seems like groupthink to me. If everyone's looking here, that certainly kind of seems like groupthink. Well, I think once you see the rest of the slides, you'll see that that's not true. We're going to reel you back if that's what you're thinking, right? Harness energy in the same direction rather than a scattered shotgun approach. We've all seen that too. Tell you what, you guys figure out how to roll out the product. You guys figure out what to do with marketing. Give delegation's great, but maybe that's not the best approach. And we'll talk about how that gets avoided under the 6 hats. Instead of someone always being the critic, Nate the negative, right? Everyone will contribute to all types of thinking. Nate will have to be a positive person. Positive Peggy is going to have to come up with some things she doesn't like, right? That's the whole creativity part. And reduce the amount of confrontation on the teams, okay? So, Edward DeBona's 6 thinking hats. This is an overview of the methodology, okay? It is not the entire training. There's actually 2-day training you can take for this, and you can become certified. It takes you through an entire workshop. This is basically provided to spur curiosity and let you guys know about this approach. I'm not a certified trainer. I am seeking my certification, but I'm not there yet. So, we have to have a project, right? So, we've got our people together. We've done our double R chart. We've got everybody in the room. And hey, we're all going to go down this path together and figure out what we're going to do on this project. Well, we have to have a project. So, let's talk about what we're going to achieve here. So, the 6 thinking hats, it's going to generate better stakeholder support. It's going to generate, hopefully, more complete requirements. And it can actually spur endless possibilities. Now, those of you who are project managers, endless possibilities, whoa, stop, scope creep, right? So, of course, with Agile, you could do another phase, you could put it as a backlog, whatever, but you'll see there's a section that could really generate endless possibilities. The other thing that the 6 thinking hats approach does is it really helps give employees what they crave. So, what I mean by that? Who in here has attended Doug Anderson's FACT course? Anyone? Okay. For those of you who haven't, we have Doug Anderson here. He's a life coach, and you can go see him on Thursdays, and you can sign up for sessions. In this very room, I think it's about once a month or a quarter, he has training called FACT, which is Focus, Age Bias, Career Transition. Unfortunately, it is true, 45 and plus, particularly in IT or whatever markets, not friendly to you sometimes. So he has a course titled FACT, which again is Focus, age, career transition. The other thing that was interesting, you might consider, the IT group had a person come in about 2 weeks ago, and one of the things she pointed out that was very interesting was this is the first time in the United States we have 5 distinct generations in the job market. We've got people old enough to be my dad, 70-something years old, to people who are 20-something years old. 5 distinct generations. And they all bring with them a distinct worldview. I mean, let's be honest, the millennials grew up with Facebook. I have a Facebook account, I don't use it. We've all seen what's happened to Facebook lately. We've all seen how there's basically a perpetuation sometimes of groupthink. Well, I thought this was great, I posted it, ooh, I got 1,000 dislikes. So again, sometimes the millennials don't maybe think critically like some companies want. So what Doug brought up was, there are 4 things that companies are looking for today, regardless of what group you're in. They're looking for collaboration, creativity, critical thinking, and communication. Well, I'd like to think that those of us who are 45 and older, we got the critical thinking down. Communication, hey, I can write a paragraph, right? So this should be good, right? So, let's talk about the project. So, we want to be the first company in the United States to grow cubed watermelons. We already grow watermelons. Let's suppose we're located in South Texas. We want to be the first company in the United States to grow cubed watermelons. Now, these things are real, so they do exist. So if you've ever been over to Japan or Asia, they do exist. So the big reason they did it over there was because they have small refrigerators. And they're not GMO, so I'll tell you that right now. Basically, they take the small watermelon when it's small, they put it in a box, plastic or wood, and it grows and becomes square, whatever. So we want to be the first company in the United States to grow cubed watermelons. Okay, great. So let's talk about the process. We've got the team assembled. We've done our double R charts. There is one person that wears the blue hat. He is the facilitator, right? You start with the blue hat, you end with the blue hat, and then there are 5 phases in the middle where everyone in the group has to wear the same colored hat and focus in the same direction and contribute in the same style of teaching, or same style of thinking. So let's talk about the blue hat. The blue hat manages the thinking process, control of the thinking process, instructions for thinking. Maybe he gets people together in a room like this before if they've never had this type of approach. The organization of thinking, controls the other hats, very good facilitator. Big thing is this person needs to be disciplined and focused, like any facilitator, because we're going to go through 5 phases of thinking, and they need to be, okay, now we're at the yellow hat phase, and this is what this means, now we're at the green hat phase, and this is what this means. So you need to have a very, very strong facilitator. So realistically, what this person is doing is he's being a conductor. Okay? There's another thing the person with the blue hat does, and again, why are we here? Well, we kind of know why we're here. We're going to want to grow cube watermelons, right? What are we thinking about? Definition of the situation or problem, we've kind of done that. What do we want to achieve? The blue hat person up front needs to say, at the end of this meeting, our goal is to have a document, a report, maybe schedule another meeting. So they need to be very clear on what we're going to deliver at the end of the meeting. So what we want to end up with. The background of thinking, the plan and sequence for the hats. So in addition to being a conductor, he is basically a teacher. All right. So phase 1, we start with the white hat. So in the white hat, what we have is just the facts. Some of you are old enough to remember that show. Just the facts, man, only the facts. So it's all about information available and needed. Think of white, think of empirical, right? So what we've got here is neutral, objective information, facts and figures. Questions, what do we know? What do we want to know? What do we think we know, right? Excludes opinions, hunches, and judgments. You cannot use feelings or emotions. This is black and white data. So, if that's what we're doing, if we look at our melon project, well, what would we do? Well, maybe annual watermelon sales. That'd probably be good to know. So we could probably figure that out real fast, Googling away. So what are the annual watermelon sales in the United States? Hey, what are our sales? Where do we grow watermelons? We could, of course, extrapolate our market share as, Papa Ching, right? Annual sales from cube watermelons. Well, they grow in Japan. Maybe we can look that up. Is this really even worth it, right? Annual sales of cube watermelons in Japan. Is there a grower in another country we can interview? Maybe there's only one. Maybe they're not doing that great. So is there a grower in another country we can interview? Is there data on taste comparisons? Okay, they look cute, but do they taste good? So data on taste comparisons. And of course, putting on my American hat, hey, is this already patented? If it isn't, maybe we can patent this and make a lot of money, right? So these are the kind of things you do under the white hat. Very empirical, black and white data, right? Now, from the white hat, you switch. You go to the other extreme. You go to the red hat, which is all intuitions and feelings. So I remember my grandmother, oh, I'm so angry, I'm seeing red, right? So you think about the emotion, it's visceral, it's guttural, right? So what you're doing in this point is everyone has to put on the red hat, everybody. Even if you're not inclined to contribute in that way, I'm asking, you need to wear the red hat. I need to hear from you, hey, what do you feel about this? What does your gut tell you, right? Doesn't have to be logical or consistent. And of course, no justifications or reasons needed. So what would you do under the red hat? Well, you might hear things like, too weird for US consumers. And that's all you have to say. I don't have to, okay, could you tell me more about that? Well, what do you mean? Nope. All you need to say is too weird for US consumers. It's simply unnatural. Oh, no, that's just unnatural. Okay, maybe that's ugly. Oh, hi, I looked at those, they put the ugly and ugly, right? So it's all visceral, it's feelings, it's emotions. So you gather all those red hat ideas, right? From that stage, you go to the yellow hat. So if the white hat was empirical and the red hat was an emotional, now we go to the yellow hat, benefits and feasibility. Think of Katrina and the waves. Walking on sunshine, right? Everything's great. This is what's so great about the project, right? So what we've got there is positive and speculative, optimistic, benefits, best case scenarios, everything that is just sunshine and roses. Now the blue hat person should go to negative Nate and say, come on, give me one. You can think of one, come on. It's the blue hat's person to solicit these type of things out of everyone, right? So in our project, we might have things like new and cool. Reduce shipping and storage. My God, you saw those guys. They're all the same size. Think about it. We've all been to Walmart. You walk up, oh my gosh, right? You fumble, you get your watermelon, you try to carry it out, it's sliding all over. That ain't gonna happen anymore. They're all cubes. And talk about shipping, 36 always fit in a box. Simple, 36 times $10, this is what this thing costs. We don't have to, oh, I think I put 28, did they put 28 in there? Did they put 22? I don't know. So reduce shipping and storage, consistent aesthetic, easier to prepare and consume. So you think about all the positive things about this project. Now, if the white hat was empirical, and the red hat was emotional, and the yellow hat has features and benefits, where do you think we're going next? We're going to the flip side of this. What's negative about this? What isn't good? We're going to the black hat, right? So, under the black hat, it's all about judgment and devil's advocate, curious and cautious. Oh, negative Nate's going to be happy here, right? So he's going to tell you why it won't work, why it's not a good idea. So logically negative, why it won't work. Devil's advocate, focused on errors. This is similar to what we did about 5 years ago when we rolled out the XYZ. Do you remember that, guys? We rolled that out, it didn't work. So you can bring all those up, the errors, the evidence, the conclusions, right? So under this, we might run into things like investment cost. You just told us, right? You're gonna use boxes. So not only are we gonna have a field, now we gotta go out and buy, what, 1 million boxes? And then, let's think about this. So if the watermelons start growing, and then you put them in a box, that's at least 2 trips to the field. Look about harvesting. You used to go out there and just cut that thing off, throw it in the truck. Now you're telling me we got to cut it off, crack open the box. The harvesting time's going to be longer, So these are all the negative things you could think about. There's going to be someone out there talking about the plastic, right? Is the plastic got BPA in it? Is it against the EPA? So these are the possible negative things about the project, right? And again, maybe people are going to assume it's GMO. So of course you have to come up with some way to alleviate that. Well, what we end up with then in the last phase is the green hat, alternatives and creative ideas. So in this is theory, you've brought it almost to fruition. Maybe you've got it done. Maybe you say, okay, after we've actually rolled out cube watermelons, what can we do? So this is, think of green field. Green field, man. You can do, sky's the limit. So new ideas, concepts, perceptions, deliberate creation of new ideas. Okay, everybody, let's assume we got the cube watermelon thing done. Check. They're growing, they're shipping, they're distributing. Where can we go from here? So that's what the blue hat person has to do. New approaches to problems, creative and lateral thinking. So for example, in this case, it might be, hey, how about summertime jack-o'-lanterns? Wow, look at all the money Americans spend. They go buy pumpkins, they haul them out, don't even eat them half the time, stick a candle in them, put them out in October. Oh, hey, we could do the same thing with watermelons. That might be something different, right? Hey, college kids, Insta-keg, right? I don't know about you guys. Hey, when I went to school, people tap kegs sometimes, they have parties, right? So you got Insta-keg. Put that sucker right on the table. Oh, look at that, it's not gonna even roll. Put that right on the table, pour some alcohol in there, slap a tap, and Insta-keg. College kids are gonna love it, right? How about other shapes? Or if we've mastered cube, could we do heart? Could we do rectangle? So, this is what the green hat is all about, right? So now, you've started with the blue hat, you've done your phases, you come back to the blue hat. So again, the blue hat at this point is managing the thinking process. What have we achieved? What are the outcomes, the conclusion? Maybe it's going to go to the design phase, the solution phase. So again, the blue hat person should stay up front. This is our goal, right? This is what we're going to try to come up with. Well, as you can imagine, I mean, you guys have been doing this forever there, you might result in another session. I mean, if the project is very large, even you get people in a room for 8 hours and you spend whatever, an hour in each hat, that might just be a beatdown, right? So you might decide, well, maybe it's going to be another session. Or maybe we're going to have Monday's the white hat, Tuesday we'll get together and do the red hat, etc. So maybe from the get-go, you figure out, okay, we might have to have another session, right? Of course, some of the findings you have could go to the business requirements document. Some of them might be able to go to the functional requirements document. Probably not the technical design doc, but you never know, right? So some of the things you listed in this meeting, you could probably pull out there. Of course, if you're using Agile, as you can imagine, some of the things that we find out during these meetings could go well to an epic, user story, etc., right? So again, leads very well into the development methodology. Another thing that this is very good for is the matrix of knowledge. So who in here has heard of the matrix of knowledge? Okay, that'll come up in a second. How about SWOT analysis? Yes, right? So any of us who've been around for any length of time, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And you can pull this data right from there, hopefully, and it will go into a SWOT analysis. Or PESTLE. So everybody familiar with PESTLE? So PESTLE, you've got the political, the economic, the sociological, the technological, the legal, and the environmental. A lot of companies are going down that path now with this wonderful let's all feel good approach. So you want to have this PESTLE analysis, right? Well, one of the things I highly encourage, particularly for the blue hat person, is to capture what people say in this type of approach. So again, you go back to your double R, you list the people on the left side, you list the hats across the top, and you list what they came up with. Well, Tom, when we had our white hat session, he wanted to know annual watermelon sales in the US. Hey, Peter Jones, during the red hat part of it, too weird for US consumers. Again, your goal is to capture all this and document it. A couple reasons why. Aha, we've proven, right, or we're helping prove, we've gone out to all of our users, we tried to solicit requirements, we're trying to make sure that everyone got to put in input to different parts. Goal here would try to be at least have one entry per person under each hat. Again, the goal of the blue hat facilitator is, okay, negative Nate, tell me something positive. Okay, positive Peggy, tell me something that you think is not going to work. So again, your goal is to get all of this out. Leads you with a very good documentation trail, right, of what you found out during the process. So again, what that can lead to is the matrix of knowledge. So the matrix of knowledge, if you lead it from left to right, for example, A, I know what I'm looking for and have a good access to the answer. Well, we know what our watermelon sales are. That's something we identified. So I know what that is. I know where to go find it. If you look at the B side, the answer lies somewhere in the data I've collected, but I don't know how to analyze it. So basically, you know what you don't know. Okay? So you got to figure out how to go get it. Now, all these type of things are usually flushed out when you're wearing the white hat, because that's the empirical hat. And this, of course, is where my group loves, which is D, because this is you don't know what you don't know. So this is where all the BI people get all excited, because of course, this is where you're going to do analytics, and you're going to get into prescriptive analytics, and you're going to get into all those kind of things, right? So basically, I need to leverage the opportunity to access the data so I can discover insights and drive more intelligent strategies, right? So again, if you go through the 6-hat process and you capture the data like I showed on the previous slide, it leads very well to flushing out the matrix of knowledge. And you can list in here, sales, et cetera, so you could very easily quantify what you know, what you don't know, et cetera. As I mentioned too, it could lead itself very well to a SWOT analysis, strengths, opportunities, weaknesses, and threats. So strength, we currently grow watermelons. That's probably a strength. Hey, at least we are doing that, right? Opportunities, first in the US market. Now there's a fun one, first in the US market. Most people are probably, that's an opportunity, that's great. Some people might think, that's a weakness, because we're the first, we have to coordinate with distributors, we don't even know how to do our marketing plan. So I highly encourage people, if you come up with something that could fit into 1 or 2 squares, no. The team needs to decide right away, we're going to put it in one of these squares. It has to be a strength, a weakness, opportunity, or threat. It can't be more than one. But again, what this can lead to is this type of approach. Threats, environmental groups don't like plastic containers. That could be a threat. Divestment in normal watermelons may turn into decreased sales. So again, you could take data that you pulled out during your 6-hat process, and you could roll it into a traditional SWOT analysis. And then, of course, again, we have PESTLE, political, economic, sociological, technological, legal, and environmental. So for example, political. Do we need to coordinate with the FDA? Wouldn't think so. Maybe you need to. Maybe there's some places that you can't have plastic in a field. Didn't think about that. So maybe you need to coordinate with the FDA on something like that. Economics. Maybe there's some states that'll give people a growing incentive. Wow, you want to do something new and cool? Well, from the state of Texas, you can get an actual grant, blah, blah, blah. Maybe there's some states that don't allow you to do that, right? So economical, right? Economics, rather. Maybe on the political side, you need research. Who knows? Maybe Democrats and Republicans think that square watermelons are different, right? And they have different political views. So those are the things you might be able to research. Again, on the legal side, do we patent it? Are there other countries that we'd be infringing upon? And of course, again, on the environmental, plastic, et cetera, right? So once you've stepped through the process, again, and I've used this on a couple of projects, first time, I'm not gonna lie, it's a little bit bumpy, but I think once you educate everybody and you say, okay, everybody, I need you to really contribute in this fashion. I know that you typically don't like this, but this time you put on the green hat or put on the red hat, and you can really solicit those requirements, and that's when it comes down to the blue hat person, then it really can be beneficial. So again, you've got the process, assemble the team. Hopefully you've done that with your double R approach. You've got one facilitator, he's got the blue hat. You started in with the blue hat. You rip through all the 5 phases, and everyone has to participate in that fashion, whether that's emotional or empirical or, the sky's the limit. A couple of things that you can deviate from. Use any hat as often as needed. Obviously use a facilitator after you work with people a while. You might, okay, I think we need to spend a little more time on the green hat here because we never seem to get that far. Or sequence can be present or evolving. So you could state up front, we're going to do the red, the green, the whatever. Or maybe you could go, okay, you know what, now we talked about that, let's all shift for a minute and let's put on our red hat and let's talk about this. That's all up to the facilitator. This one I kind of disagree with, not necessary to use every hat. I disagree. To me, if you walk in the room, oh, everyone loves this project, this is just great. And then of course you never ever ask for somebody to put on the red hat or put on the black hat, and there you are a month later, oh gosh, no one thought about that. Well, did you ever ask about that? No, probably not good. So I would avoid not using one of the hats. Time is generally short. Again, requires a very disciplined person if they're wearing the blue hat, and of course it can be used in individuals or groups. So again, recap. Blue hat, manage, observe. White hat, empirical, all about the numbers, just the facts. Red hat, emotions. I'm so mad I'm seeing red. Visceral, guttural, what you think. Yellow hat, everything's coming up roses and sunshine, right? Black hat, judgment. Green hat, creativity. Where can we go from here? The sky's the limit, what can we do? And I think when it's all said and done, you'll see that if you try to do this type of approach, typically it will help you with better stakeholder support because you've tried to solicit everything from them and you've made them be creative. You've made a person who's naturally is bent one way, maybe think another way and participate, right? So more complete requirements. Endless possibilities. That whole green section is the endless possibilities, right, when you wear the green hat. And again, you might table some of those to other parts of the project or phase 2 or whatever. But, as you can see too, this approach helps you with the 4 C's. You're definitely collaborating. Oh, you got that. Creativity. Again, you're making people maybe think outside of the bounds of how they normally think. So you're asking them to be creative. Critical thinking. So again, as the project goes on, you might take some of those one-liners. So you just think this isn't going to go well in the United States. No. Maybe phase 2, well, why don't you think it's going to go well? Because Bob says it's going to go great. So let's all look at Pat's statement under the red hat, and let's talk about it from a black hat perspective or a white hat perspective. Do we have numbers to back that up? Do you think it's going to be not good? Do you have any numbers you can point to? So again, critical thinking. And of course, it helps you with, as you can imagine, communication, because the group has to communicate. So that basically, in a nutshell, is the approach. Again, there's a full 2-day training on this that's available through a variety of vendors. Used it on a couple projects, and it seems to work out pretty well. So if you guys have any questions, or we can open up a discussion, that's the overview. That's the 6-hat approach. So, anyone? Cricket?
So what are some of the challenges you run into using this approach?
Well, people initially don't want to participate, right? Again, they don't want to come out of their shell. If you've got that, I've been here 20 years, dude, I've done this, they're sitting back there with their folded arms. If they come in already negative, and not necessarily negative from maybe their personality, but negative on, I've seen other projects crash and burn, whatever, they have a tendency to not want to put on the positive hat. It's really hard sometimes to solicit from people, what can we get out of this? What can we do? Flip side, maybe a person's profession. You get accounting in the room. Accounting is very what? Black and white. These are the sales figures, whatever. And they can tell you, well, no, last year the sales were down, they were up, whatever. But when you say, okay, well, what do you think about this? Cube watermelon. No, but it's hard for them to see the intangibles because they're so black and white oriented. So I think the hardest part is just getting people out of their shell, maybe getting them out of their natural bent for what they do for a living. But I think once you've done it a couple times, people actually get excited about it, right? And then they'll be like, oh, well, let me put on my red hat right now. They can really embrace it and they can start doing other things. I think that's the biggest challenge I've seen with it.
Does it help to let people know that we're going to do this a slightly different way, the brainstorming ahead of time?
Yes, like I said, the blue hat is two types of roles, right? He's the conductor and the instructor. I would not ever just, hey everybody, welcome aboard, and this is what we're going to do. There's a thing called a blue hat. No, I would actually step people through something like this. I mean, ideally the whole team should really take the 2-day training, yada yada. But realistically, as long as they've set through something like this, and you said this is how we're going to brainstorm from now on, right? Then they can take acceptance. Obviously, if it's sponsored by the PM group, right? I mean, me, I'm a BI manager, so my own little world, whatever. I got my BI team together. We're going to do what we're going to do. But if you can really have from like the PMO office or a project manager say, hey, this is what we're going to do. Now, like I said, I noticed last week, the IT people are, really, because again, IT people, I want to go write code, right? They don't see the value. And I hate to say it, a lot of times IT people, even if we deliver everything the user wants, we've all been there. Look, I gave them everything they wanted. And what do I hear? Well, yeah, they delivered what I wanted, but now what I asked for, but now that I see it, it's not what I want. And that happens every day. So they sometimes don't understand the importance of this process, but I think if you can step them through it enough times, they'll embrace it. That's what I think, so, or what I've seen, I should say. All right, cool. Well, thank you guys very much. And see, there you go.
Hey, you broke it.
Back over to you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.